Welcome to the Explainer. Today, we're going to pull back the curtain on the internet and reveal the secret language that builds every single website you've ever visited. We are talking about the actual blueprint of the web, and in the next few minutes, you're going to understand exactly how to read it.
So let's just start with a simple question. Think about it. When you're looking at a web page with all its text and its images, its links, have you ever really stopped and wondered what's holding it all together? What's the actual structure underneath all the fancy design?
Well, to answer that, you've got to think of it like a skeleton. Just like our own skeleton gives our body structure and shape, every single web page has a framework that holds all the content in place.
And that skeleton, well, that's HTML. It stands for Hypertext Markup Language, and it is the standard universal language for building everything you see online. Basically, if it's on a web page, you can bet it started as HTML.
But here's where it gets really interesting. HTML doesn't work alone. Think of it this way. HTML is the skeleton. It's the bare-bones structure. Then CSS comes in, and that's like the clothing and the style, the colors, the fonts, everything that makes it look good. And then you have JavaScript. That's the muscle and the brain. It adds all the behavior, the clicks, the animations, the interactivity. But without that HTML skeleton, there's absolutely nothing for the other two to work with.
So, how does HTML actually do this? How does it tell a web browser, hey, put a heading here, or this chunk of text is a paragraph? Well, it speaks its own language, a language made up of these things called tags.
And you know what? It's actually way simpler than you might think. It's just a three-step process. First, you start with an opening tag. Let's say P for a paragraph. Then, you put your content inside. The actual words you want to show up. And finally, you finish it with a closing tag, which is just the same as the opening one, but with a little /. Boom! That's it. That's the entire instruction for the browser.
And this right here is a perfect example of a complete HTML element. The browser sees that P tag, and it knows that everything between it and the closing P tag should be a paragraph. It's a direct command that turns a line of code into visible content.
Okay, so how do we go from these little individual tags to a full-blown web page? Well, they all fit into a universal blueprint. It doesn't matter how huge or complex a website is, they all start with this exact same basic anatomy.
Every single valid HTML page you'll ever see has these 4 essential parts. It starts with that doc type declaration. That's just a little note at the very top telling the browser, hey, you're looking at an HTML file. Then you have the HTML tag, which wraps around the entire document. And inside that, everything is split into 2 main sections, the head and the body.
And this is probably one of the most important things to get, the difference between the head and the body. The head is like the control room. It's for the browser's eyes only. It holds all the behind-the-scenes info, like the little title you see in your browser tab. The body, on the other hand, is for you. It contains every single thing you actually see and interact with on the page. All the text, all the images, everything.
And the stuff inside the body? It's built with just a handful of really common tags. You've got your headings. H1 is the biggest and most important one, all the way down to H6. You've got P for your paragraphs, A for clickable links, IMG for images, and UL for a simple bulleted list. Honestly, with just these tags, you can build a surprising amount of the web. They're like the Lego bricks of the internet.
All right, theory's great, but let's see this in action. We're going to look at some real code and see how these Lego bricks actually snap together to build a real web page.
Okay, I know what you're thinking. That looks like a wall of code. Maybe a little intimidating, right? But trust me, you already have all the tools you need to understand exactly what's going on here. You can already spot the basic structure, right? There's the document type, the HTML tag, and the head and body sections. So let's just break it down.
See that first line inside the body? That H1 tag? That's a direct order to the browser. Make this the big main heading of the page. Simple as that.
Right underneath that, you've got the P tag. And just like we talked about, the browser sees that and knows to treat all that text inside as a standard paragraph, creating that nice little introduction. Then we've got an H2 tag, which creates a smaller secondary heading. And right below it, you see that UL? That stands for unordered list, which is just a fancy way of saying a bulleted list. Each one of those LI tags inside becomes its own bullet point. So clean, so simple.
Now, this one's really important. That A tag, which stands for anchor, is how you create a clickable link. That href part tells the browser where to go, and the text in the middle, Wikipedia, that's what the user actually sees and clicks on. And finally, the image tag. This one's pretty self-explanatory, right? It puts an image on the page. The SRC tells the browser where to find the picture. But that alt part, that is so important. It provides a text description for people who can't see the image, making the web accessible for everyone.
And there you have it. You can see how every single line of that code translates directly into something you can see and interact with on the final page. It's not magic. It's just a blueprint that the browser follows perfectly every single time.
All right, that was a whirlwind tour of the web's foundation, huh? So, before we wrap up, let's just quickly nail down the key takeaways from all this.
Just remember these things. 1. HTML is the skeleton. It is all about structure. 2. It speaks in tags, those little commands in angle brackets. 3. The head is for the browser's secret info, and the body is for everything you see. And finally, 4. HTML is the foundation that cool styles and powerful interactions are built on top of.
And that's really the coolest part of all this. What might have looked like a bunch of complicated nonsense before, well, now it's a blueprint. You've literally just pulled back the curtain on how the entire internet is built. It's not some big mystery anymore.
So, that really just leaves us with one last question. Now that you know the skeleton, now that you have the blueprint for the entire web, what are you going to build?